YouTube in the Deep South, and once again, it's Kennard, Vernon, and Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. Well, this has been an interesting week for the Tigers. Auburn falling to Cal 21-14. When I did my prediction for the season, I actually did this long drawn. Well, anyway, go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. Down in Deep South, college football is king. And on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. I did this long and drawn out video about, Auburn, their outcomes for this year. I mean, just right off the cuff, I can't remember the end result, whether it was, 8-5 and whatever it was. But California was not a game that I projected Auburn to lose. I don't think anyone really projected Auburn to lose this game. Looking at how the game unfolded, we're going to get into this in a few minutes, but, you give the game within the game, Auburn did everything just like they did last year against Cal, did everything to lose the game. Now, the question at the docket at this point is Payton Thorne. Payton Thorne is definitely on at least the fan base's chopping block. They're not confident in him. You can look at stats and you can see that he has not performed well against Power 5 teams that are successful. He does relatively well against the FCS teams and against the Power 5 teams that, are just not that good. And that has been documented. It has also been documented that he is known for having multiple, double-digit interceptions in years. I went back and I looked at Carson Beck from Georgia. I mean, you look at Carson Beck's stats, he probably won't throw 10 picks. If Payton Thorne continues at the trend that he's at now, I mean, he probably will have more picks than touchdowns, which is pretty problematic. Jalen Milroe, I think, may be one of the more errant passers in college football for Alabama. I don't think he will have more than 10 interceptions this year. I think, you look at the Alabama game against University of South Florida, that wasn't the same Alabama team that I'm accustomed to. And I will, go on record saying I'm not an Alabama hater. I'm not a Georgia hater. I'm not a hater anyway. I love college football. But I was just, really intrigued by how different the Alabama team looked this year versus, the prior regime with Nick Saban. I think some of the celebrations that I was like, damn, they celebrating like that? Nick Saban was a disciplinarian. I'm thinking that if, they score and, you celebrating like that, I think Nick Saban is, having some conversations with some players, but that's definitely another video. But the Auburn fan base, has gone through a time period that we've never seen before. We've never seen consecutive losing seasons. I mean, albeit, yeah, we got some 8-5, some 7-6, but we never seen like losing seasons like this. And we've never seen games against other Power 5 conference teams that we were just so dominated by. And the bad part about it is the domination comes from just self-inflicted wounds. I'll go back to the Gus Malzahn era. If Gus Malzahn's playing against Clemson, they're going to show up. They're going to show up against Oregon. They're going to show up against all the big teams. They're probably going to lose some games they shouldn't. But I'm going to just roll the dice and say that a Gus Malzahn coach team, and this is no knock to Hugh Freeze. I think Hugh Freeze is doing an incredible job. with recruiting and trying to right the ship here. But when we talk about game planning, I'm not sure if Gus Malzahn loses to Cal, but that's a different thing. So, all right. So on the docket is Payton Thorne. Payton Thorne just cannot seem to get it done against formidable competition, against good defensive coordinators, against good defenses. Cal, look, they had 8 starters from last season that came back. And they probably have put this on their calendar to where this is a game that we have to perform well in. And they did. They forced turnovers. They forced Auburn into very uncomfortable positions. And it showed glaringly. Auburn in this game, field position. Let's talk about this. Before we get into the whole offensive line, can't block, and Payton Thorne and all that, let's talk about the circumstantial part of this situation now. Well, I don't care who the quarterback is. I think the game plan worked. I don't think California came in with the game plan to pin Auburn deep for most of the game. I think it just worked out. And I think they capitalized on the working out of it. One, I can't think of a single drive in the first half where Auburn started beyond the 20-yard line for the most part. They were always pinned deep. And with that, you talk about a game plan from the Auburn standpoint, it goes out. Yeah, you want to run the football a lot. But Auburn spent the majority of the game in survival mode because of field position. When they did get field position, I'll admit they were able to move the football. But going back to Payton Thorne, now I like him. I think at times he shows flashes of a good quarterback. He's, as far as speed, he's much better in the run pass options because I saw some explosiveness there. But what I'm really iffy on is the decision making. And this is the thing that I was cautious about in the Alabama A&M game. If you go back and look at my prediction of Auburn versus California, I had my reservations. I would even go out on a limb and say I projected that Payton Thorne would throw an interception in the first half, and he did. And I thought there would be some adversity. I thought Auburn would be able to overcome the adversity, but the adversity started to pile up. Now, do I think that Auburn should make a quarterback change immediately? I'd say no. Now, my heart says yes. Hey, get him out of there. He had 4 interceptions. Probably could have had a few more, made a lot of mistakes in this game. My heart says yes. But I think you got to give Payton Thorne somewhat of a chance with more favorable conditions. Now, I know all the argument, hey, he's a 6-year starter. He shouldn't have to have all that. But I want to see what Payton Thorne looks like in a game with a little bit more competition than Alabama A&M, with better field position, with the ability to run the football. I don't think Auburn ran the football near enough as they wanted to give some balance. And then we'll just kind of play it as they may. Now, here's the thing. I think Auburn has to figure this out on a high level really quickly, because I think Arkansas is a very good football team that they will face the week after New Mexico. But I think you got to give your game plan a little bit more oomph. And you got to give Payton Thorne Although I don't think he deserves it. No, he doesn't. I think a Power 5 quarterback that has been in the game for 6 years, I mean, you got to figure it out. You got to figure out how to make plays. He had guys open, and he's got to find that. I think Auburn really has to figure out a way to challenge the intermediate portion of the football field. See if Payton Thorne can do it from a decision-making standpoint. But do I think after, and this is why I'm kind of delayed in doing this video to begin with, because I wanted to look at the totality of circumstance. I don't want to just be no knee-jerk reaction analyst and say, hey, it's time to get him out. Now, there are a couple of reasons why I would want to get him out. One, I don't think he has the intensity to make things happen. You know, he's a 6-year starter. I think he's run his course. But I think he still wants to be successful. And I think in this game against New Mexico, I think Auburn needs to give him the best opportunity to show how successful he can be. But I think that leash should be short. Because, yes, and Auburn is not good enough. And I think, Hugh Freeze said that. Auburn is just not good enough at this point to make all the mistakes that they made and win against a Power 4, Power 5 team. The encouraging part of this is even though Auburn had 5 turnovers, they still had a extremely extraordinary opportunity to win. That's encouraging. They didn't do it, but it's encouraging. But I think Auburn has to be very deliberate, has to be very intentional in this game against New Mexico and really put Payton Thorne in some situations where, no, we're not throwing the deep ball. We're not going to make you look good in this game. You need to win this game based on something that will translate over into a team that's going to challenge you a little bit more, like your Arkansas, like your Oklahomas or your Georgias that's coming up. No, we're not just going to get out here and play 7-on-7 football. You got to read this defense, and you got to figure out a way to get the ball to the players in the intermediate passing game, between the hashes, a little bit outside. But I don't want to see nothing beyond the 20 to where you just lob it up and the receiver just beats his guy. I don't want to see that. If Payton Thorne cannot be successful in the intermediate passing game against New Mexico and against Arkansas at the beginning, you got to take him out. Because the game is going to be won in the trenches. In those 101s with the linebackers, in those 101s with the nickelback. You're not going to win in the SEC just throwing the ball, lobbing it up, and your wide receiver is just better than the other guy. I knew it, but I just didn't think it would be as profound as it was against Cal. I think Thorne should remain the starter for this week. But if he can't prove that he can sustain drives with his leadership and passing ability, I think it will be time for Hugh Freeze to make a change. My time is up here. I am Kennard Vernon Stewart. I am your Auburn enthusiast and analyst. Been doing this for quite some time. And truth be told, kind of halfway think I know what I'm talking about. Go back. I really want you to look at that video where I did a prediction and I was concerned about the Cal game, and that came to pass. I predicted Auburn to win that game, I think 28-17 or something like that. And I would have been spot on if were not for the unpredictable 5 turnovers from Auburn. Still had a chance to win. Like this video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. My name is Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. Like the video, comment, and subscribe. In the Deep South, college football is king, and on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War M effing Eagle.